Swanee River, far, far away. That's where my heart is yearning ever, home where the old folks stay.
All right, welcome to Florida Mint on Florida Man, episode 3 of The Social. We are here with Nate Young, the co-founder and owner of King State, an amazing bar and coffee shop in Tampa, Florida. It's a massive part of Tampa culture. Nate is also one of the founding members of Anberlin and has been touring the world playing drums since 2002. We've got a lot to cover, but first things first, Nate, how are you, man?
I'm great. Glad to be here.
Awesome.
It's good to have you, dude.
Nice spot here under the tree.
You're bragging about your own spot.
Yeah, already.
Okay.
It's been 10 seconds.
We're here at King
place.
State. No, it's so nice out, and it's a beautiful day, and the spot's amazing. It is a huge part of like Tampa culture, and so for those who are listening from kind of around the world, like what is King State? What do you guys do?
So we started as a coffee roaster, which is kind of the initial idea. This was always the end goal, having a full space with the concept of like beer, wine, food, coffee. It was based on us traveling. We saw a lot of that over in like it already sounds like a brag. I'm like,
that's we're asking about you.
No, but yeah, like it was this idea of like at the time Tampa didn't have something kind of an all-day spot where you can go and get breakfast, you can have a beer in the morning if you want, because we traveled a lot to where we would be like, we want to go to a place like that. So that was kind of the initial concept, but we started roasting coffee first in 2014. So
that's awesome.
Well, I mean, an all-day spot. We show up on a Wednesday at 2:00. Can't find a parking spot.
Slam.
Hell yeah.
Dude,
that's awesome.
No, very, very thankful. I mean, it's been a wild couple years, but it's cool. I mean, it's one of those things where you just we went for it, and we had kind of a vision and idea, and obviously tons of ups and downs to get to this spot. It wasn't like, like I said, 2014, we didn't open until 2019. So,
sure.
So that was the goal too, is like slow build. We really wanted people to like know our brand and know who we are, knew that it was like us behind it. So Tim, my partner, and just very like open about that, to where it's like by the time we got here and we were opening, people were like ready. It wasn't like, who are you guys? And like, are you new to the area? Or, are you guys?
Well, the branding is like on point.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, man.
It's very clever. A lot of good designs.
Thank you.
We wanted to feature King State heavily in the episode because I think I was telling you a little bit earlier, people write in all the time from all over, like from Seattle or like down in Miami. And they're like, hey, like how far are you guys from King State? Which is such a vibe, man. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
so sick. Right. That's without being like too over the top, that's like such a wild thing to hear, because it's like what you hope for, and it's like you having a vision and hoping it'll be that way, and then hearing stuff like that is just it's the coolest, because I'm born and raised in Tampa, and I've always said it is like, if I could even be a small part in someone else being from Tampa and kind of like being proud that King State's here, like, dude, I'm Tampa, and that's cool. Because I felt that a little bit growing up when like something cool like Cigar City, one of the biggest breweries here and now massive, like I felt so cool being like Cigar City's Tampa. Like I would travel, we'd go to other places, and I'd be like, I'd see Cigar City, or someone would be like, oh dude, like. And I felt so rad being like, so if that's even a tiny bit where someone's like, dude, I'm from Tampa, and someone's like, oh, like King State, and they feel cool about it, like then to me, that's like the biggest accomplishment for sure. So,
that's huge.
I remember seeing the merch before I even knew about the coffee, honestly. Like I was seeing the merch over in Lakeland, and like just everyone started talking about it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which, started becoming a buzz over there, and then people will drive like an hour just to come hang out at your
traffic's
spot.
No joke.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Which is awesome. That's which is really cool. But
and making like Tampa like cool or hip. We had the same vibe by naming our show and like doing our show with Florida.
Yeah.
Like we know Florida Man kind of had the bad rap, so we thought if we could bring like some coolness or some like pride to Florida, it was along the same lines.
Yeah,
that's what
that definitely. And I remember even when I first saw you guys stuff, I thought the same thing. The more people kind of like heavily repping Florida or where they're from, like I instantly connected with it, because at the time, I mean, this sounds so funny, like it wasn't that long ago, but 2014, like honestly, no one wanted to acknowledge if they were from Florida. It was this like we were always the brunt of jokes, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to lean into it. I'm naming King State. We're using a gator.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that we're from Tampa. We're going to talk about that we're from Florida, and not get because to me it was like no one was really doing. Cigar City is a good example. They named it after Ybor, and it was kind of like they leaned into it. And of course, there's like, even like the Tampa Bay Rays, and there's other places that have done it, but not on like a smaller, more intimate level. So that was kind of what I wanted to do.
Well, I feel even now like there's a lot of pride in Tampa and just in general. Like you mentioned the Rays, like just all sports in general. I think everybody's like really gathered around the Tampa culture and like the heart of the city.
It used to be artists, they grow here and then they leave and then they represent somewhere else.
Yeah. 100%.
And so now it's like, people are saying Tampa.
Yeah. All my friends too, like growing up, like they'd all like, I just got to get out of Tampa. And they're all back. And I knew it was going to happen, not just because it's cooler, but like, when you're from here too, it's like there's no it's just home. It's like that's how I felt. I just was like I knew I'd never go anywhere else. I mean, my whole family. I mean, they're spread out now, but we're just from here.
Yeah. Right.
When
Christmas gets together, it's Tampa.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my parents moved here early '70s. My dad was drafted to the Bucks actually. So he played it in Colorado. Drafted here, thought he'd be here for a little bit, but they built a house like in early 70s and just never left.
That's amazing.
And so we're all, for me, that's like another added,
There's some weird vibe, that comes off of like, it's like the breeze off the water.
Yeah.
It's like, no matter how hot and how inland you are, Tampa still gets that nice, cool, crisp breeze. And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
As a guy that's moving here, I just want to say.
This guy's selling it.
I'm
going to text my wife, put my house up before I even finish the episode.
Yeah.
So Nate, like you started kind of doing some dope, like creative things very early on. You were young when you joined Anberlin. So what was that like, being, was it 13, 14? Give or take?
Yeah, 14 is the age that I was when I started playing with those dudes. Yeah.
Right. What was that like being kind of like a young guy traveling, being on the road so often?
It was wild. I mean, it was just a very unique thing.
Are these guys much older than you?
Yeah. So I mean, it's funny now we've like caught up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like when you're older, you're not that much older than me. But when you're like 15 and they're 20 even, it's a huge,
that's a big gap.
Huge difference. So, so I was 14, and like I think the youngest dude in the band besides me was 19 at the time.
You must have been a good drummer then.
Yeah, I was okay. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like I still look back.
Personality,
and I'm like, that was wild. Yeah,
personality based.
A bunch of creeps too, dude. I'm like 14,
sneaking you into bars.
Yeah.
This guy.
No, I mean it was just a weird thing where I was in a band with my brother when I was 13, and they were in another punk rock band, and we played a few shows together, and then their drummer quit, so I ended up playing for that other band. And then I wasn't going to be in Anberlin. They had another drum because I was younger too. They're like, yo, like we want to like pursue Anberlin as like a full-time thing. And they're like, he's so young. Like
Middle
even if we
school.
thought like we liked him as a drummer, but it was like, and I was very understanding at the time too. I was like, that makes sense. I'm young and I can't really tour. Yeah. But then it just was this weird thing where that drummer kind of like bailed. This was before even Anberlin had been signed or anything. So they were just starting to write, but then he quit, and then they kind of just were like, yo, can we talk to your parents? Like,
wow.
Like
your dad's a weird conversation.
Oh, yeah, they came over, like all of them, and we're just like, look, like I don't know what no one knows the future of what we're going to do, but like our goal is to like tour and like get signed, and like we'd like, your son to be our drummer. And it was like, and my parents were really cool about it. I mean, the first few tours, my older brother went with me.
Cool.
But I was homeschooled already anyway, so I just did all my school on the road.
Did they compliment you? They're like, trust me, the dude, he can pound skins with the best of them. We want him. They're like, we know, right? We trained him.
We trained him.
We want him out of the house, actually.
Like, I'm sick of hearing him play in the garage. I mean, at that point too, I think my parents saw how much it was like serious for me playing drums in general. I think if it was not going to be Anberlin, it was going to be something else. You know what I mean? Like they were like knew that it was just my thing. So I think they just kind of like, it's as a parent now, it's like, it's pretty wild and inspiring to be like, wow, you like, and this was like again, sounds so like old, but this is like no cell phones, no nothing.
That's nuts,
I mean, it was
right?
like we had
no GPS
atlases.
tracking.
We didn't even have a computer.
Rand McNally's.
I used to buy phone cards, and my mom be like, "I'll talk to you in a few days," and it's like that. You know,
if I got the minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd run out, and so looking back, I'm like, man, it was cool that they were that aware of like seeing my like love for it, and that I was headed that way no matter what. And I think it's cool that they let me like jump on it at an early age, you know.
And if they say no, do you run off?
No,
you stay.
Yeah, I mean that's like, well, it's just brutal. Like, I'm one of 7 kids too. And it's like, I'm middle child too, so I'm already the one that no one likes as much anyway. Middle child, you know.
Deuces, yeah.
And it's also I mean, that is a good question. I think I would have maybe. I don't know if I would have ran away, but I do think it would have hit at this spot. Was like, listen, I will finish school and I'll do that, but it would have maybe been like this thing where I'm like, or I can not finish school and drop out and do this because I probably would have done that. So I finished, and I'm not smart at all. I mean,
you're with a good group then.
I barely eked by, but
how quickly did you guys become like major touring? Like you were actually doing big tours? Because it's one thing when you're first starting, you're like doing kind of local shows and things like that.
It was honestly pretty fast. I mean, we did one tour, then when we started Anberlin, we wrote like 4 songs. We went to Atlanta, did demos, and then shortly after that, we put it up on mp3.com, which was a thing.
God,
and we were like, oh my god, we had like 800 plays. Like, but then that's how like Tooth and Nail found us, our label, and so pretty quick we like signed, and we were at it. I mean, we were just straight away. We were just like kind of going for it. So,
and this is the time Tooth and Nail was like really. I mean, I grew building steam.
Yeah, they were like the label for me too. So that was such a weird experience.
Who on Tooth and Nail did you look up to?
I mean,
band-wise,
number one was MXPX for sure. Just growing up, I was like, and but all of them. I mean, like it was just so into that label. Yeah. MXPX was the big one, but I was just into that label in general. They were just doing, like my parents were very aware of like lyrics back then too. So it was like we snuck Nirvana and Green Day, but it was still this like we could like openly be like, we're gonna buy this record because it's on Tooth and Nail. So they were like very down. So I did grow up with a lot of Tooth and Nail bands. MXPX was just like the main one that I was like,
and I think that's why Tooth and Nail really took off.
Agreed. Yeah,
because of it was parent approved, but like the kids loved the music, but the lyrics were good.
Yeah, it was just positive. It was that whole vibe of like. Yeah, I don't even think some parents cared that it was like a Christian label. It was just the lyrics were just like, and I don't. Tooth and Nail is I think was or is considered a Christian label, but they've transcended that by a lot.
For sure.
Like in the sense of like it was just more of a label that was. I mean, they signed bands that to me were like groundbreaking no matter what. Like Starflare 59, that came out today, it'd be one of the coolest indie bands, and they spawned so much. So even the respect level that they had in Seattle and in that scene, no one cared that they were like a Christian label or whatever, I
didn't even know that. I mean, these guys taught me that.
What, that they were a Christian label?
Yeah, I wasn't even like in that scene. I was more into like Freak Nasty, listening to The Dip and like 3-6
ODB.
I got into hip hop after Tooth and Nail for sure. Yeah. I mean, early before, and then there was like that break was like, I'm punk rock. Yeah, and then it was like going back to it, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like I feel like early on for us, because we're from Lakeland, and some of the guys like are from kind of the Winter Haven area.
Yeah.
So whenever you guys got signed, it was a big deal talking about being prideful of where you come from.
Yeah.
It was a big deal for any creative, I think, in Central Florida, which just like Anberlin's doing well, and you kind of rally that's behind that, and that's always a cool vibe. And I think too, like because you were younger, and I mean, and the guys in retrospect now, they weren't old.
No. But even when they were a couple years back then, it's
right?
Like a big deal.
Right. But even but even now, you look at it, and it's just like, man, like it's cool that like dudes from Central Florida like did well and took off, and like. So was there like a moment for you, like maybe like in I'm sure there's multiple moments in Anberlin, but like where you were like, man, like we're doing this thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh
like,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that happened. Looking back, I'm like really thankful because I was very aware of that. So I feel like I had a lot of moments like that. Where I'm like, we're doing it. But going back to what we talked about, when we signed to Tooth and Nail, that was a moment where it was like, it was truly hard to like wrap my head around it, because I was so into MXPX and so into like, they used to release these like videos with like their music videos, but then like Brandon Ebel, the owner, he was in it. So I saw him as like a celebrity. And then fast forward like 3 years later, he's like signing my band, and I'm sitting there talking to him, and it was like hard to wrap my head around. I remember it really was like this dream state of like, we're from Florida, like they're in Seattle. It wasn't like, oh, we got signed because someone knew
bumped
someone.
Into us.
It was like, we're Florida, and we like put our songs on the internet, and now like we're getting signed to this label that was like the end all for me. So that is still maybe the biggest like moment for me. Like and I'm very thankful. Anberlin's done a lot of really cool things where that's been moments for me across the board, but still to this day, that's the one I think about the most, where I'm like, that was just, I didn't care what happened after that.
That was it.
I was like, we do one album and be done, but I'm like, we did it, you know?
That's huge.
I mean, I've got a question you probably heard 1,000 times, and as a late bloomer, where along the lines did you hit puberty? Like, were you like in like drumming, and then it was
like all of a sudden
it just happened?
Because I didn't hit it till like 17 or 18, and I'm always curious like who hit it before me. And
I think everybody.
Because it would be rough if I was in a. Thank you.
Yeah.
That
is a good question, because that would
Anberlin.
Think about how strange that'd be if I
was
like
if
I was touring.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
girls on the tour bus, and you're like, I don't know what to do. I'm not.
I'm like, my voice keeps cracking. I'm like, hey guys.
No,
so
let
me think. I'll answer.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll answer. I don't care.
I didn't care about asking.
It was before.
It was? Okay,
Yeah.
man. Lucky.
Congratulations.
Thank God. 17 for Josh, though.
It was like
what a
17.
monumental year.
True.
I was like 16. That was ninth grade.
16?
Whatever ninth grade is.
I remember seeing you do pull-ups for the first time. When you were doing pull-ups.
I still can't do
And
pull-ups.
he's like,
I've
he
never
must
done
be-
And I could tell. I'm like, dang.
Oh, he hit for
he hit the pivot.
I had a goat. Had a goatee growing.
I love it. Here's the thing, though, man. I feel like the confidence that must have done, you know, for you, I think, like, you know, having a career kind of take off at such a young age. Your dad was a professional athlete. So do you think that kind of attributed to like them being okay with you hitting the road and kind of, you know, pursuing your dreams?
I think so. I think it also is like I said before, being one of 7 kids, we were all so different that it was like there wasn't this pressure of like, I think if you have like a lot of parents, I think if they have like 1 or 2 kids, they kind of have a very preconceived vision of what their future is.
With, you know, 7, it's like you could lose one and you're okay.
Kind of. I mean, I don't think that, but I do think there is this like, well, look, they're all not going to go to like college and be doctors.
Right. Sure.
So like maybe we'll let the middle one go see if this happens. You know,
see what happens.
Very cool.
I think they just kind of took a look at how we all were. None of us were super. I played a ton of sports growing up, but I don't think my dad thought that any of us were going to like follow in his footsteps, and I don't think my mom wanted us to.
Sure.
I mean, just with you know, my dad having a lot of injuries and just the competitive nature of it, and it's really intense. So I don't think it wasn't this like sport centered, you know, kind of family. My brother, my older brother, he did go play soccer in college. He was the only one that kind of like pursued it, and he did well. He did really well, but music was clearly the thing for me, and I think my parents just kind of took it as it came with each kid, and was like, he's headed that way. For sure.
But that's how you met Tim, correct? Who is your current partner with? How long have you known? So he's your partner. Yeah, early on.
Yeah, 14. Okay. I mean, right, like before Anberlin, I knew Tim.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay.
Our band with my brother played with his band, and he was the young dude in his band, even though he's 4 years older than me.
Right.
So it's like we like connected through that world, and this was before he was in Under Oath, before I was in Anberlin.
Sure.
So I played in that band, and he was in another band, and so that's how long we weren't like insanely tight, but we became friends, especially when he joined Under Oath, and then I joined Anberlin. We connected on being the new younger guys in the band. So we just always like stayed in touch and became friends, and then we married sisters, and now he's my brother-in-law. So
I know about that.
We were going down that path, man. Like it was looking really good for a while.
You
But I
guys
wasn't
could have
doing
opened
music.
King State Lakeland. If you
I know,
if you
bro.
wouldn't have
Oh,
blown
the
it, Josh.
franchises.
Let's see. I've got another sister. Let's see what happens.
Josh, you blew it, dude.
Come on, man.
I blew it.
But so 14 was when you guys started roasting together.
No.
When was that? Like how long? When did that-
2014.
2014.
No. So yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So,
So
but,
I've known Tim since like 2001.
Right.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2014, you're roasting together. Like, how did you guys go from like, this is kind of what we're doing now to like brick and mortar where you are now?
Well, yeah. So I mean, that's a lot. That's a big gap. But
Sure,
Tim and I
sure.
became. We. I always try
I
to say
can
without being
concise it.
creepy.
When did you start seeing the coffee makers or the espresso machines at bars and saying, that's something cool I want
Right.
to do?
Yeah. So for me, I got married in 2009, and so Tim and I got way closer in general, just as like being brother-in-laws and then being good friends. So
Yeah.
I started getting into coffee, and
Yeah, buddy. Brother-in-law. Sorry, I just tapped Wayne, ex-brother-in-law.
Yeah,
on the
no,
side.
but in my heart, still brother-in-law.
yeah,
Yes,
forever,
amen.
forever, and
Forever.
ever. Amen. But yeah, so we became friends, and then when I started getting into coffee, I'd started at like Starbucks. I mean, I was
Right.
like, it was like either gas station or Starbucks. So
Right,
like
sure.
when Starbucks happens, like kind of got me into it. And then through doing a lot of records in Seattle is what got me really into like
Sure.
kind of the third wave when that started. Our producer that did like 4 of our albums, Aaron Sprinkle, he's the one that got me really into like Stumptown was just getting big in Seattle, and he showed me like pour over and like light roasted
Amen.
coffee, and it wasn't Starbucks, so I was like this quick. So
Yeah.
I got into it fast and started being related to Tim at that point. Like
Right.
during Christmas time, I was like doing pour overs, and he's like,
Oh,
"What is
nice.
this?" So
Very
I
cool.
got him into like, damn, this is way different than like anything I've had. So then I started just kind of being like, yo, I got this idea of like I want to do something in Tampa. So Tim kind of was like, do you want to do it together? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to do it
cool.
by myself. So
Right.
we just started talking, and Tim got more into it, and then we just kind of like once Anberlin decided to actually Under Oath broke up before us. And that's when we were like, okay, cool. Like maybe we
Nice.
can like look. And then when Anberlin decided to call it quits, I was like, dude, now's the time. Like I don't have a plan for the
Right,
future.
right.
Like let's
Sure.
just
Perfect.
go at it. And then shortly after Under Oath, like got back together, and I was like, I'm by myself.
You're like, come on, dude.
I was like, yo, dude, I thought we had a plan.
Right.
No, but it worked well because I
Right.
was like had the time to focus on it and stuff. So we just that's kind of
You try to pitch him. You're like, I mean, your band or the startup coffee
or
roasting
listen,
company.
or the 10-foot space that we built out in your garage.
Right. Come on.
What's more fun, traveling and touring, or risking everything here with me?
Right.
Now, during that time, what were you doing? Like, you're roasting coffee, but are you just like learning the process, or are you selling out of your house, like
So,
bags
good
of
question.
coffee grounds, or?
So Anberlin's final year was 2014. We announced that we were ending in like January, and then we did a full year. So our last show was the day before Thanksgiving. So we were like, look, we're going to put a new album out. We're going to spend the whole year. So Tim and I were like, yo, before you start tour for a full year in 2014, a lot of people that get into an industry were kind of always in it, but Tim and I never worked in coffee. We never worked at a bar, never worked at a restaurant. So we kind of were like, but we need to know it. We can't
Sure.
be those idiots that think they know something
With a
and they
little
get
money.
into it. Yeah, and be like, let's. So we went to Portland and did like a full like week of like coffee training. We learned the business side. We learned a bunch of
cool.
stuff, and then Tim and I just like studied for roasting. I mean, roasting is such a gnarly thing.
Yeah, why
to
roast and not just buy roast? I don't know the coffee.
Yep.
I don't have the palate.
That's another
to
good
taste the
question,
difference.
and I still to this day give Tim full credit for that because
Really?
at first I was like, I just want to open a place,
Yeah,
and I want
chill
to. There's
vibe.
so many good roasters. I was like, let's just
Bingo.
bring him in. But Tim was like, he's a really really smart business dude as well as like very creative. But he was like, dude, we gotta roast. He's like, it's our own product. He was
Are
like,
we interviewing
like
the wrong
personally-
guy?
yeah. Where's Tim? You're like, damn, how many times have I heard that?
Oh no!
No.
Thanks, bud. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel bad.
No.
now. I'm
I
gonna
mean,
leave.
it's this perfect mix of like he's because like I said, like it was King State was my idea, like
Sure.
the name of it, the whole
That's
vibe.
cool,
And Tim came along, was like, "Yo, can I?" And then Tim's like the business, others. So we're literally like
It's a partnership.
we're similar in so many ways,
Yeah.
but very split on like what we do for the business.
Right.
But
Sure.
he was like, "Yo, let's roast coffee," and I was like, "Damn!" I was like, "Dude, that's
Big.
tough."
Right.
At the time, too, without being like over the top, no one was really roasting. You had
Yeah.
like Stumptown, Intelligentsia, Starbucks, like. There was one local place here that roasted. I was like, no one's
I
roasting.
can't
You know what I
name
mean?
a
It's
place
like,
that roasts locally. I mean, we
And-
just had
Right.
our first in Winter Haven.
yeah,
But that's it. That's
and
the
that's the
only one
thing is
Right.
like at the time, specifically back then too. So I was like, dude, all right. So Tim was like, I'm gonna be the roast. I'm gonna
Nice.
roast. So he
Roast
like
king.
learned. He like
Yep.
bought a popcorn machine and like
What?
modded it and like really got into it. And I was
That's
like, I don't
cool.
know, dude. It's all numbers. Like I'm not into it at all.
Amen.
So then, the way things kind of went with like Under Oath coming back, it was like kind of he like showed me someone. I was like, I don't know if this is gonna be for
Yeah.
me. And then all of a sudden it like clicked with me.
That's a weird day,
And I
right?
became like so into it. Like we bought the roaster, we built out part of Tim's
cool.
garage, but then it like clicked with me, and then I like deep dove. I was like out of
Yeah.
nowhere. I
That's
got
so
books
cool.
and watched videos, and then
Holy
I
crap.
bought all the like software to learn it. So still to this day, I'm the roaster. Like,
Really?
I
Wow.
swear, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was
way.
just doing. That's why I was late. I was
Okay,
like,
cool.
so I was, it just clicked with me, and I became like so obsessed with like, it was the process of like doing it and then like having the finished
Yeah.
product and tasting
Right.
it and being like, oh shit, this is like
That's
You did that.
better. You know, I was like,
Right.
had that excitement of like, and
That's
then I got
cool.
the
You
connection
created
with,
something
yeah, it
from
was like,
nothing.
and I remember that's why Tim got into it,
Yeah.
but I think he was into it in a different way where the numbers click with him. The numbers still don't click with me, except
You're like a chef just tossing ingredients.
well,
and-
now I'm more methodical where I
Yeah.
have like software. I'm
Jesus.
not as much of like this
Okay.
feel it kind of
Emerald,
guy.
right.
Yeah, but when I can see it in front of me and I'm like, I know what it shows the curves of like everything.
Wow,
I know
okay.
what I want to look at and see, and so
But
and
you
I
still
know
have
it's
to have
gonna
the
taste
palate for it, right?
Like. Absolutely. I
That's
mean, you
where
got to
I'm
know
missing.
it's sensory stuff, but
Yeah.
I quickly bailed on sensory because there are a lot of roasters that don't use any software and they just
Really?
do sensory
Right.
roasting. I can't do that because Florida, my allergies are gnarly, and I was like, I can't
True.
rely on.
True.
If I go in, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna.
This
I
is a
gotta
bad batch.
Yeah, and I'm just like
You don't
smelling. I'm
know.
like, I don't really smell it. I'm clogged up. So
Right.
I realized like consistency. I would say as a whole, as a business, has been one of the biggest things for us. Like consistent for branding
Yep.
and everything.
So this
That
is like
people
a
have to
chemical
trust it.
analysis
Yeah,
of
I mean,
your coffee that's
yeah,
happening?
it's a screen that shows. I mean, I could get
It's a
mad
mass spec?
nerdy.
Is
I
that
get
what the machine is?
It's like shows like the whole bean curve and then
That's- wow,
airflow. And
bean
you gotta know like
curve.
rate
I've
of
been called that,
rise
a
and
bean
rate of
curve.
rise
Yeah.
percentage and
No crap.
you know,
You
all
start
that
with
stuff.
green beans, right? These
Green.
arrive fresh.
Yep. And that was a connection. Like that's another massive part of coffee is like
Yeah.
having a good connection. And so I met with a guy named Todd Mackey forever ago.
Yeah.
And he's like changed. He's still with us, and he's the only dude that we use for importing. And
Really?
That's cool.
He's out like him and I are close, and he like sends me shit that no one else can get. You know, it's just
Yeah.
it's
Right.
a very cool
Yeah.
connection. But I sat down with him like 2015.
You were already importing from Colombia.
yeah
so this is
other
just-
things. So,
Amen.
yeah, absolutely.
Wink.
How,
So it
how
was
often
easy.
do you come out with like a new roast though?
That was
like,
another thing. Like,
change it
I
up?
like to be a little bit more consistent. Like we have a
Yeah.
blend, and then we have like kind of the staples. Some roasters are it's like all over the place. It's not really how we built our
Okay,
business. So
Yep.
Consistency.
we do a few. I'd say maybe like new years like 3 or 4 tops. Which some roasters that's like a month.
True.
I mean,
Okay.
for me, I'm like I just want it to be like consistently good and also it's just you get into a whole nother world of like
Oh, yeah.
trying and you know
Right.
And then you
it's
got
just
the
a lot.
palate of everybody around. You're like,
Well, yeah, yeah,
they're not.
exactly.
They may not like it.
Yep.
So
It's a big risk.
Yeah.
So at that point though, when you started the roasting, like, did you start selling just the coffee
Yeah, so
itself
we-
before even opening?
We did. We were like, because like I said, no one at the time was roasting. So
Right.
we had a 1.5 kilo roasting machine, which is the equivalent of about 2 bags of coffee.
No,
Right.
crap.
But it's still, no matter what size you roast, it's
Yeah.
the same amount of time.
Okay.
So
Wow.
smaller doesn't mean like, oh, you can crank them out. It's
Right.
about anywhere from
That's
10
cool.
to 12 minutes. So when we launched, our goal too with our branding and everything was to look very pro.
You
Sure.
literally
And-
started
and-
out of a garage, like
yeah, literally
Dell
like
and
10
Microsoft.
foot. Yeah.
Yeah,
like just
that's nuts.
straight up Tim's garage. We built it out, busted
That's
a hole
cool.
through his wall for an air conditioning so I didn't die. And then like summer, I was like roasting shirtless.
Right.
It was
Okay,
sanitary.
well,
It's
thanks
fine.
for the visual.
Don't worry, it was fine.
Okay.
But we were like, we don't want to come out and be like, yo, we got online and we're doing this and this, and then not be able to deliver. So
Right.
for Concord in Lakeland,
Yep.
Okay.
they opened, and I hit them up, I was like, yo, you should come. So they like had
Very
some people
cool.
come, we like cupped coffee. This was in like 2015. And they were like, cool, like we want to order, and they're like, we want to do like 30 pounds. And that's like a
Pardon?
week for me. So we never said anything like, yeah, we can't do it. And I
Yeah.
just would do like 10 to 12 hours a day,
Oh my
every
gosh.
single day.
Moly.
And I'd never talk. And that at that point,
Hold
too, your
on.
consistency has to be dialed. Because when
Yeah.
you're doing
Right.
2 bags at a time, and then you're mixing 5-pound bags. Like, so I was just committed, and we never turned anyone down unless it was
Wow.
like our roaster was going to catch fire.
Wait,
You know what I
Right,
mean?
you go
right.
from off a tour bus to doing like half-day shifts in a garage
It's
making
different.
coffee.
It's
Yeah, it
different.
seems like a big
by
jump.
yourself too.
Right,
I
right.
watched a lot of. I'd have like another screen set up, and I watched like all of Game of Thrones. Like I like. I mean, I just have it on because I'm so focused on roasting, but it was just enough to like.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I did
Stimulate
that. I
the
did
brain a
that
little
for
bit. Wow.
a year and a half.
Wow.
And our goal, like we weren't, it was like slow growth. We didn't take a
Yep.
single dime.
Yep.
We both just like, and like it.
You're not
You mentioned like
sellouts.
IBM or whatever, but like
Yeah.
we did. We were like, yo, what businesses?
All of
you look
them. All
back,
the good
no
ones.
Right.
one's like instant.
No.
No
Right.
one's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and if they are, they have like millions of dollars in debt. Like
Yeah.
someone's
Right.
going to invest money.
Or it's
And I
a
was like,
bubble and it's going to
exactly. So we were like, let's slow. It was tough at the time. There's definitely days where I was like, what the
pop. Let's sell
Right,
I was
right.
like, I'm out of here.
Right.
You know, it was just like brutal. And
Yeah.
at the time, like
Red
I said,
wedding that day.
Yeah.
Red wedding, you're like, I'm done.
that was me and
I
Tim's
quit.
garage.
Yeah.
By myself. The red wedding.
No, but I mean, and like I said earlier, like Tim had started, like he had another full-time job. He had, 2 kids at the time,
Sure,
and a house,
sure.
and so it wasn't like it was just him and myself. Like we did the business together, but then he did a reunion tour with Under Oath. So I was just home by myself, and there were
Wow.
days, and he was very present. I'm not saying he was like
Yeah.
gone. I couldn't get a hold of him, but we had a very like, at one point I was like, yo,
Let's read-
what's up? Like, are we doing this? Are we not?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't, like, we were doing well.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Concord and blah, 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 but not money, not to live off anything. I
Right,
wasn't making,
right.
and like I said, we were just putting it back into the business. So I didn't
Yeah.
want to take anything. I was just living off of what I made from Anberlin because we ended in 2014.
Right.
So we had 2015, and then that's when he started touring again. So
Goodness.
With ending with Anberlin, like, was there any point during this 10-hour shift of roasting coffee you're like, I could just play drums again?
Nope.
And-
No,
Like, you were
I
good.
was so over it.
So you were
Dude,
done with it when Anberlin broke
when I went
up.
home every day, I was like, this is worth it.
Okay,
That's
really?
cool.
I just
That's
would go
cool.
home and I'd be with my wife, and I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to
Smell
go
good,
anywhere
probably.
else.
So when you guys finished, you were done. Like there
Dude,
wasn't
I
like we're
was
not we're
done.
taking a few years off.
No,
kinda
dude,
thing. Okay.
I've said this multiple times, and
Yeah.
I feel like people are like skeptical of it.
Yeah.
My last show with Anberlin, I legitimately never, ever thought I would do another Anberlin show ever.
Wow.
Like that.
Wow.
Like most bands do break up and they're like, oh, but
Yeah.
we got the reunion tour.
Sure.
I was like,
You're done,
it
so,
is.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
done. I'm
Right.
like, I'm just. It wasn't
that
anything
worked
that I
out
had a
well.
bad experience.
No.
Right.
Right.
It
Sure.
wasn't like I was like, oh, I hated touring. Like
Right.
it was amazing. We got to
Right.
do a lot of stuff.
I
but,
wanted to do gospel. They never let me do gospel.
Our career, I'm so thankful. Like there's nothing bad about it. I was just so burnt out and
Right.
so
Yeah,
done. So that wasn't tough for me at all. It didn't
Right.
bother me. Like even though like a lot of people were like, dude, like you went from like tour and then you're like by yourself in a garage.
Yeah,
I was
it
like,
seems like a
but that was like King State was my like other dream.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cool.
So it wasn't hard for me. It's the same way when someone's like, dude, how'd you tour in a van for
gotcha.
5 years
Ugh.
and eat Taco Bell and drink water? Because it was like, that was my dream. So
Right.
this was just
Right.
another aspect of where I was headed.
That's so
that
cool.
it wasn't hard for me to do that
That's
because I
cool.
was already in that mind. I already done it.
And when it's
You know
your
what I mean?
passion, like
Yeah.
doing 12-hour shifts in the garage, it's fine.
No,
Right.
dude, I didn't. Honestly, there were days where I was like, oof, this was a rough day. But
Yeah.
I never once was like, should I have kept touring?
True,
Like,
yeah.
I got asked, there's a band that I'd done stuff, the band called Yellow Card that I toured with.
Okay.
Right.
What?
Yeah. Well, I've heard of the band.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't even listen to music.
I don't
but I've
know.
heard- I don't. Yeah.
Well, I did a couple records with them, and they were still going. And when Anberlin ended, they were like, gave me an offer of like, yo, do you want to? We want you to do one more year with us. Like, here's what we'll pay.
Right.
Yeah.
To play the violin,
easy,
right?
Yeah.
You were the violin player.
Dude, he's my homie too, so it's so funny when people that don't know them and like I'm like, hey, that's my dog. But yeah, so they were like, dude, we'll pay you X amount to do a full, and it was like, no, I'm doing this, and everyone was like, what?
Like, pardon?
Like you're gonna spend money to go like, sit in a garage, and I was like, I just was
it's
like,
a
this
nice
is
garage.
the new thing.
It's a nice garage.
We built it very well.
That just speaks like so much to the passion that you have for it.
100%.
Yeah, and just the fact that you're done touring, because people don't realize how unglamorous touring is.
God bless. I drove the van for these guys, these two guys.
It's brutal. I mean, it's again, I'll never complain because it's like it was such a unique experience, and we did so much that I only dreamed of, and I truly enjoyed our touring years. Like, I think there are a lot of bands that maybe not feel the same, but like I loved almost every second of it. When I got married and when I was like gone all the time is when I was like pretty miserable. So that was the last, that was kind of.
And when was there a merge where like you're with Anberlin and you're touring, and now King State, the idea of King State is keeping you going?
Absolutely. I mean, that final year,
that was fun.
I was like hitting all the spots, trying to like on the final Warped
doing
Tour.
research.
We did Warped Tour 2014, and I was like, there's always this spot where all the buses are backstage, and every morning I wake up and everyone's like would talk about it and be like, dude, no one's got coffee, like blah blah. And I was like, you know what? I got an idea.
Nice. That's
so
cool.
I hit Tim, who was we'd already at that point had bought our roaster, and so Tim was roasting, and I was like, look, I'm gonna go buy a grinder and two things to do pour overs, because at the time too, pour over was like the thing in cold brew,
right?
The sock, I don't know. I built my own coffee machine.
He's a Keurig.
Don't let these guys. No, I'm not. That's so offensive, right? You can't even say the K word inside here, unless it's King.
I have a coffee concept that's only Keurigs, like 30 of them.
What?
Like behind the bar.
I mean, I'd go.
You choose your flavor.
Cool branding. I'd go.
No, but I was like, yo, there's no good coffee here. So I hit Tim and I was like, yo, can you ship me like 10 pounds of coffee?
Sweet.
Right. And so he's like, yeah, let's do it. And so at the time, I was playing a set with Anberlin and Yellow Card. But I'd wake up at like 7 in the morning and I'd set up a tent outside our bus and I'd play music, and I was like, set up a sign that was like, pour blah, blah, blah. And it crushed.
Like at the vendor booth? Like
I'm
where
talking
all the
like,
vendors are, and it's you?
No. This is not in front of
just for the bands.
This isn't fans. This is just behind backs. I mean, there's like however many bands are on Warped Tour, and we're all in the same area.
Right.
So by the end,
good God.
I mean, it was
You're the coffee
like
guy.
I would spend all night the night before. I didn't have a way to do cold brew, because at the time it was like kind of a tough thing. So I was making like 2 Chemexes at a time, and I was putting them in coolers and filling up for the next morning. And then I built the tent to be like kind of rad and cozy. And every day it was like a lot of connections that I still have from people now are from my like coffee. I mean, and it was funny too, because it was like kind of this way to like show Tim that I'm like heavily committed as well. You know what I mean? I was like, yo, dude, like roast me coffee and I'll get you. And like by the end, I was doing like 800 to $1,000 a day.
What?
That's crazy.
What?
That's
by
awesome.
myself on like a tiny Walmart thing.
That's crazy.
And I was like, and it was just fun. Like I'd have a line, and like it was this cool thing to where people were like, oh, like so. Then going to King State. So again, I just was
You're
down
seeing
for
like
the
the
grind
guy
of it.
like from Matchbox 20 who sings Kryptonite, like 15 people deep.
I wish he was on the Warped Tour. He would never touch foot on Warped Tour.
I know. He
But I think there's something to that though. Like when you're passionate and you have a vision, like the month to month is difficult, but like you're talking 10 years. Is going to gauge your success or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
not so much of like where you're at, like from January to February, which I think speaks a lot to like the passion here, because again, like now you guys are brick and mortar, and when you, like I said earlier, people from all over the country, like they know about King State, they want to come here. It's like it's not just the good coffee, not just the good beer. You guys are like you have a full kitchen, right? Scratch kitchen. Like cool. you do everything. So culturally,
it's my little sister too.
Right,
really? She's the chef.
It's huge.
That's awesome.
I'm into sisters.
It's a huge.
Sorry,
just
bub.
kidding.
Sorry,
No.
bub. She's married.
Okay, I don't.
But it's a
That
huge
was
part
my
of
only joke.
Yeah.
Episode.
I'm in the sisters. That's such a good. That's
My
such
girlfriend's
a
gonna
good
be
line.
so mad.
Can't move
She's
to Tampa
never watched
anymore.
one of these, dude.
No,
You're fine.
No.
She's seen 3 episodes.
But it's a huge part of Tampa. Yeah, it's a huge part of Tampa culture, though. I mean, I would
Yeah.
say
Hey, that's
like,
awesome.
it's huge. Yeah, but
Damn.
They said don't hit on a sister, whatever you do.
we have one thing.
It was in the notes.
You didn't even know she's my sister.
Don't bring up bestiality. Don't bring up sisters. And then both of them are out of the gate. So, what was the process like going from roasting in the garage to kind of where we are now? I know it's another big gap, but what was the pivot like?
Yeah, so we quickly were like, all right, we're outgrowing the garage, and we need to get a bigger roaster,
Right.
but we can't fit it in the garage, obviously.
Bigger garage would be the obvious next step. Right?
So we just bust the wall down.
Right.
So we were like, we need to find a spot, and we were like, man, like, we don't want to buy a place yet because I never envisioned, like, you go to some coffee shops and the roaster's like in there, and I was like, I don't like
Yep.
that vibe. It's like very coffee house, and I was
Right,
like, I want
right.
to build a bar, honestly. Like, our
Right.
goal was like, once we decided we're doing like beer, wine, and food, I was like, it needs to feel like this either bar, like, cafe that feels more like not just like coffee,
Right,
just
sure.
coffee.
It feels like a modern bar.
Yeah.
Like walk in, it's chill.
You don't feel like coffee.
Yeah,
You're like in a coffee
No,
house.
and I don't feel like a very drunk hobo is going to bump
Yeah,
into me.
Totally.
It's very comfortable.
Yeah. And that was the goal, is like a comfy,
Okay.
like more like, again, all day
All day.
spot.
Yeah.
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 So we had a friend so I don't know if any of you skate or no, the skate park of Tampa, which is like
Yeah.
a famous.
I went to
they-
Tampa
Right.
Skate Park. I didn't drop in, but
Yeah.
I went.
Yeah.
Not on
You
that
sat-
big.
You
not on
sat at
that
the top
12
and just
foot-
looked
yeah.
at it. You're like, one day.
I'm not doing that. I'm not
I
doing that.
didn't drop in. Dude, I feel like that's such a universal thing because every kid knows exactly what you're saying.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
how many kids have gone to skate parks like, today's the day? And like, nope.
Not today.
I'm going to slide on the
It
ass
was
down
never
it for
the day.
sure.
I'm gonna go back up
When
and
no
down.
one's looking.
When I move here at 38, I'll drop in.
Promise.
Dude, this is your year.
Oh,
Yeah,
God,
this is-
please.
this
I
is
think
it,
I can
bro.
get the hookup and you get in.
Oh God, it's a pass. It's like $20, right?
I'll get you in.
Okay, thanks.
Don't worry, dude. I know people. You're good. But there was like this venue connected to the skate. It's like a huge warehouse. They own like a whole
Yeah.
block. And our friend at the time was like, yo, I heard you guys are like looking for a spot like to roast, because we didn't want it to be like for the public, just like a straight up. We were looking at like a couple like storage units, but you got to have like air conditioning
Yeah.
because
Right.
like the green coffee and storing it,
Yeah.
and you got to have sprinklers too because like a roaster. And so she's like, we got this like venue. It's like a DIY hardcore venue, and she's like,
Cool.
listen, we keep having issues with like the guy that's like running it. Like we keep getting the cops called, like underage drinking and fighting,
shit.
and so they were like, we're tired of it. We're
Yeah.
gonna either close it and turn it into like
Fishmonger.
skate ramp storage,
Right.
Oh,
or
okay.
I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, do you
Yeah.
guys want to? So we went and looked at it, and I was like, hell no. It was
No?
disgusting. I
Really?
was like, not a chance. And then our Tim was like, I think we can make it work. And I was like, all right, dude, if you
Cool.
want to do this, like, I got to keep roasting 12 hours a day in your garage.
Right,
So
right.
at the time, he's
Yeah.
like, dude, I can get it. So we like gutted it, cleared it out,
Jesus.
cleaned it. I chipped all the tile up with my little brother.
Ooh,
We like went
asbestos.
for it. Yeah, I mean, it was gnarly. We got it really clean, but then we ended up like buying. So we were in a 1.5 kilo, and we ended up
Yeah.
buying a 15 kilo. So 10
You were in a
times.
popcorn
Yeah.
machine
Yeah,
first.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, we were. Yeah, popcorn and then that. But then so we bought this roaster. So then that's kind of where that's
Wow.
when we like instantly scaled up.
10
it was like
Right.
right? 1.5.
when we 10 times. So we went after like restaurants, and like again, not a
Wow.
lot of people roasting. So we kind of were like, oh, we're gonna live as like doing a lot of wholesale. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
kind of do that. But then as things do, like quickly,
Yeah.
we hadn't bought this spot yet. We were kind of down to kind of live there for a little bit. We weren't crushing like
Yeah.
again, none of us were taking money, but we were like,
Right.
all right, let's keep building,
Just
building.
roasting.
But then like with a quickness, the whole industry changed, where all of a sudden it was like everyone was roasting. It
Yeah.
was like, it went from like we were doing like hundreds of pounds a week just to multi roasters, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, one by one, these multi roasters that were buying other people's coffee were like,
Right.
oh, we're gonna roast now, because there's a lot more information. It was like more
I
obtainable,
gotcha.
because back when we did it was like there's like
Nothing.
2 books and a few
Right,
like
right.
but
You're
then
getting
it
stuff
was,
from the library.
yeah, exactly. I did. We like rented books, and like now it's like social media and there's all these classes, so everyone's like, we can roast now. And like green importers were like very open. It was like easy to buy good coffee, and so that kind of changed our whole thing too. We're like, we got to alter
That's
and
weird.
kind of figure out
the
what's
world
going
becomes
on.
flat, and you become like, oh crap, I'm
Yeah,
not
it was
a
out of
specialist
nowhere. Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then we kind of decided to jump ahead of it, and well, once we were gonna start, or right when we got this place, we nixed wholesale completely.
Right.
Because we were like, yo, it's dying.
Struggling,
Like
Right.
it was like it's more trouble than it's worth. We have a few like grandfathered in like AT&T vibes where like
Right.
someone that was like
Nextel.
buying from us from the beginning
Right.
can buy
I
from us
gotcha.
whenever they want, because they
Cool.
put us on bar when we were
That's
nobody. So I was like,
Right.
dude, if you hit me and you're like, I
Yep.
need 500 pounds, I got you. Like
Right,
there's
that's cool.
there's like 4 or 5 of them that we're
Right.
like still tight with. So but yeah, that was kind of where we landed after the garage was there before we found here. But we looked at so many places.
The garage
before
is
we
a cool
found here.
spot.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
This was a mechanic shop, or that went out of business, and you took it over.
So this was originally a gas station.
Yep.
Right.
And then I think it was a car garage, like, you know, they just fixed up cars. But dude, I mean, I grew up like skating around here, and so I always saw this building because there's not a lot like it in Tampa, like the 50s specifically, like you know what it is, and like I just remember we would drive by it all the time. They had a fence up, and it was like for lease, and we were just like,
Oh crap.
you
It's
know,
a
once
sign.
so we tried to lease it, and they're like, sorry, we're gonna lease it to someone else, and we were like real bummed. So we looked at other places, and we got pretty far somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then we drove by like a couple months later, and it was still for lease, and we were like, why? Okay, so we
This
hit them up again. We're like,
yeah.
yo, what's up? They're like, oh, that fell through. And we're like, okay, well, we're interested.
Yeah.
And they're like, cool. And we're like, all right, but do you want to sell it?
Oh,
And they were like, no. And I was like,
Right.
yeah, but you probably want to sell it.
Right.
And we're like, so yeah, no. Well, I'll talk to my guy, and they're like, yeah, we don't want to sell it. And we're like, yeah, you should
You
sell
do.
it. So.
Right.
But we ended up buying it.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
So we just like took our time and really like, you know, I hate to sound this like over the top, but
Yeah.
as soon as we walked in, I was like,
Yeah.
this is it. I was like,
You knew.
yeah, I was like,
Right.
all of the stuff we talked about, and all of the work, and the
That's
garage, and all
You
of
could
that
visualize
stuff.
it from an old dirty garage. You could
Dude,
visualize the spot.
I hate that sound so old when I say it, but like the bones were so good.
That's cool.
When you
Right.
walked in, it was already sick. I mean,
Right.
it was like the paint wasn't bad. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we changed it all, but
Right.
it wasn't like there was, oh my God, the roof was caving in.
Sure,
and blah, blah. It
right.
was like solid. And I was
Right.
like,
Wow.
this is
We
the
can build
spot.
here.
I was
Yeah.
like, this is it for sure. And we just like, when people around us were like, dude, it's not gonna, you know, even
Yeah.
at the time, there was not a stoplight. There was a stop sign.
Wow.
People were like, where are you going? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
we're going in this
good,
area.
though.
And like,
right off 275.
I mean, we
you're
both were
on
like,
the
this is the
exit.
spot. I was like,
the
it's right
spot
by
for
the
sure.
interstate. It's
Right.
right. And it's in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
You're not going to have 5 other shops open up next to
true.
you. And
Right.
I always wanted to be in a neighborhood. We were like, dude,
Yeah.
let's be like
The
a
neighborhood
Tampa,
roasters.
you know,
That's cool.
just we're the
Yeah.
roots of a neighborhood. And we're like, I want to be close, like
Yep.
a DJ. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
I want to be
Right.
close to the neighbors.
Yeah.
I don't,
Right.
I don't want to be some like one spot in the midst of like,
Right.
you know,
Yep.
tons. So, I mean, this,
It is a good spot. There's
We-
houses
we
on
could've-
2
we-
sides of you.
yeah.
Yeah.
We could have blown it, and
3
this place
sides.
still would have been cool. You know what I
Well,
mean? It
yeah. Sure,
already has
sure.
the feel of like, and I'm so
True.
thankful to say that, but like, even before we did anything,
Yeah.
this place
Good
automatically
bones.
caught your eye.
Yeah.
Because of the overhang and the roll up
Yeah.
garage,
Yeah,
and like,
yeah.
you know,
Tree.
it just instantly has, yeah, exactly. The tree.
Nice tree.
I mentioned that at the beginning.
But your branding and your vibe though has always been on spot though, because like on point. Because like everybody, when you guys launched, like everyone
You heard
was
of
talking
King State.
about it. Like,
That's
dude, like
awesome.
literally everyone in our circle was just
and
like,
we
hey, are you
thought,
going,
why didn't
like-
we name the podcast King State? Once we heard,
Dude, I know,
we,
it's-
we had already named our
But
show.
I think it's
I'm
part like you were saying earlier too, though. Like it's like people who are leaning into Florida,
Yeah.
and going,
Yeah.
we're from here, dude.
Yeah.
This is dope, and we
Yeah.
can do
We
cool
can do
stuff
rad
here.
stuff, and
Yeah,
that's-
100%. And I think people appreciate that because again, people drive from all over, dude.
Yeah.
all
That's awesome.
over to come. I mean, and not to make light of the fact that the beer's good, the food's good, the coffee's good, everything's great,
Mhm.
right? But there's just a culture about it, there's pride about it, where
Yeah.
people love this spot.
That's
man.
awesome.
Yeah.
Like it
Thank you,
feels
man.
like Florida, dude.
That really means a lot. And that it's so funny. That was just always the
nuts.
goal. I mean, I look back and when I came up with King State and I started like hashtagging it on my personal Instagram
Yeah.
because I was like,
I'm
I
gonna
remember
own it.
I was on the beach and the whole country was like getting snowed on, and I was trolling all my friends because I was like drinking whiskey on the beach. And I was like, how you guys doing out there? And I was like, and I just kept hashtagging King State. And that's before I had the idea for this. I mean, I had the idea, but I didn't have a name. So then I was like, Tim, what do you think about King State? Just like leaning into like just it instead of shying away from being like Florida's whatever. You know,
the simplicity of the design and the logo is really what.
Thanks, man.
Is what I like.
Thank you. The gator was like kind of my idea. Or not kind of. It was my idea. I was like, I wanted to lean into like that stuff. Like I was like, where there's palm trees, you know, all that stuff. But I will say, I gotta say it because like the first guy that did our branding, I kind of sketched it and then he drew it and he crushed it. But then honestly, when I feel like it really took off for us as far as like branding is when we hired my friend Jordan Butcher, who's like, I knew him from the band world. He did some Anberlin covers.
Sure.
Dude, he's the only reason behind our branding. Since like 2017, when I feel like, in my opinion, we went from like, the gator was like cool, and we kind of had this thing, but then he
does some silly stuff.
He pushed
that's really
the like,
cool.
hippie, the font change, dude, and I just fully trusted him. And he is like, I mean, and like you said, I would argue the biggest thing of King State, if you're outside of the state, it's the branding and it's the vibe behind. Obviously, it's a mix of all of it. How I run our Instagram, how we communicate, like there's a lot to it, but the branding is all from Jordan, just pushing it before anyone. And I was like, dude, this is wild. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And then 3 months later, everyone's doing it. I'm like, dude, how did you do that? Like, I'm like, and I can say that because it's not me. Like, that sounds cocky if it was like, oh, I came up with it. But like, he'll be like, dude, I want to do this thing. And he sent me the font that's on our building. And I was like, what?
It's gold.
I was like, but I was like, silly. I didn't know if I was into it. I was like, dude, this is so like, because at the time it was like clean and box letters. And, you know, our old branding was kind of the like, the move where it was like, you know, there's some dudes in Austin called Land, and they kind of started that like it looks vintage, but it's new and kind of that like hand drawn thing. So the original branding kind of was that, and then Jordan just like pushed it to another level, and it really, I think, is what's kind of put us on the map for people looking at us and being like, oh yeah, they're like doing it, you know.
I remember guys getting bags of King State. Like to their house, right? Before you guys were brick and mortar, and that was like a big deal, and people were like, dude, I got my King State came in, and it was a vibe,
sick,
like a vibe before it was a vibe. You know what I mean?
Like, it's like me by myself shipping at a Tim's
bro, that's what I'm saying is like
hand stamping.
You're like you're working away in a garage, just like, you know, tearing it up, bro, and like people like 100 miles away are like, I got my King State in. You know what I mean? Like it's huge,
dude. That stuff was wild. When we first did our first like online thing, we did like a shirt.
Yeah,
we like sold out of our shirts. I was just like,
that's why I came today to get the
we don't have any.
The Goza long sleeve with the silly face on the back.
Sorry, it's gone.
The ups and downs. Is that what it is?
Yeah, ups and downs.
At what point did you start doing beer? Because you guys have your own beer, correct?
Yeah.
I just had the IPA, and it's amazing.
Here he goes.
But like, at what point did you start doing that?
So that's another wild kind of story where it's like, Tim and I, we always made this joke that like the reason why we did coffee is because we didn't know how to brew beer,
right?
Like we were beer dudes. We were like, yo, like, but coffee was more, you know, and it all mixed in. But we were like, dude, we were like, one day we should do our own beer. But I was like, I'm not gonna learn it. I'm too busy roasting, and you're not gonna learn it because brewing beer is so hard.
Right.
Like to brew good beer is like so. We were good friends. I wasn't super close to him, but Tim was. His name's Eric Parker.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, man, he brews over at this place called like Southern Brewing. It's like, you know, no one really, it's like a small little like mom and pop. They have like a janky garage looking brewery.
Okay.
Sorry, Southern, if you're listening to this. Your brewery sucks. No, but like Eric was like, yo, I love coffee, like good coffee. Do you want to trade home brew?
Sure.
Like he was like, dude, and he was bringing me like growlers of like his home brew. And I was like, this is insane, dude. I was like, you brewed this at your house? And he's like, yeah. Like, he's like, he's like from a brewery family. His dad owned a brewery in Orlando, so it just was like in his blood, and he was just very good at it.
Yeah.
And he's kind of, I love him. He's like the best, but he's like hippie-ish, kind of like just living. And so we kept trading, and then when we moved to the bigger roaster, he would stop by and we'd hang, and he'd be like, yo, try this new beer. And I was like, dude, and I was like drinking, and I was like, yo, you want to brew for King State? And he's like, yeah, of course. And I was like, for real? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, all right.
That's awesome.
Let me talk to Tim. Wow. And we like sat down with him and we're like, let's talk about this. So even before we launched with our own beer.
That's nuts.
And Eric, we like Gypsy Brew. We're still Gypsy Brewing at the same place because of his connections. He was like one of those dudes in the beer world where everyone's like, he's the best.
That's
crazy. You know what I mean? Like because they respected him. He would help people with home brewing. So he was just so on board with us. And so the beer was like slower going at the beginning because we didn't have our package license.
Yep.
You could only drink on the premises, and it's tough. It's like, and people were like, "But wait, you do coffee and you also do beer." So
you got to sell food if you're going to sell beer.
Well, it was like a tough thing to kind of convince people.
Yeah.
But then we got our package license, and then we got a distribution company that was like, and then we started canning. And so since that, and that's only been like.
Wow.
I don't know, 8 months. But since that, it's been like, we can't keep up. Like, it's
cool.
really cool.
Okay.
It's
Do you
like
only sell the cans out of here?
All of Florida. And that's what's wild is like, I'll randomly get a post on Instagram and it's like Miami. They're like, sold out of King State. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know we were in there. Like, it's crazy because it's like, so Eric is like, he's just, our goal, we didn't give him any rules either. We're very big like fans of putting people where they want to be and giving them like trusting what they're good at. And like Eric, I was like, dude, you make amazing beer, and I can tell you what I like, and I can speak into like I like this style and this, but like I'm not going to tell you what to do because I don't. You
need more Citra hops, and he's like, I don't think so.
Yeah, but exactly. Like, I'll tell him like, dude, I like this kind of IPA, and then he'll just make it, and it's insane.
Right.
So it's like
that's cool.
So his whole goal was like, I want to make drinkable beers. I don't want to make like I'm not going to do the whole wild like. It's just not his style. Like, instead of trying to like lean into that, he's like, I just want. So our Pilsner, which I just drank, is our biggest seller because it's just a crisp. It's like my dad drinks it. It's like, and if you like beer, so. It like we just can't like we're about to our first canning run. We did like 7 barrels of like mixed of like IPA, cold brew, and our Pilsner. And now we're doing like 30 barrels at a time of just Pilsner.
Come on,
because it's
like
just
kegs?
like we can't. Yeah, we're having to buy. I mean, our next move is a brewery, and that's what we're working on now.
Okay.
That's
you're gonna join like something like Brew Hub where they're brewing other beers.
I don't know. I mean, I'd rather have our own spot. That's what we're working on now. It's just like I want Eric to do whatever he wants. I don't want him to have to answer to anyone, and so that's kind of what our goal is. So like even like my homie in Orlando is like, dude, most people in Orlando don't know you make coffee. Like in Orlando, we're like more beer. Like they're like they'll find out you make coffee or roast coffee. And like, oh, that's cool.
When'd you get into that?
Yeah. It's like it's reverse. So it's really cool to see that because that was like for Tim and I was like, how do we convince people? Yeah. Because it is so good, and I can say that because I had nothing to do with it except say, I'm like I didn't
have
do
at
anything.
it.
Besides,
like,
I have the Midas touch. Anything I touch is golden. I don't have it.
Okay. Here we go. But yeah, so for Eric, he just was like having fun because he's like, I can do whatever. He'll be like, hey, I want to brew this beer. I'm like, cool, man, do it.
That's awesome,
like,
dude.
So he's pumped and he's like crushing it. We have another canning next week of like
fun,
all that stuff. So
did you say he's also doing the cold brew?
No, we so another
person
that works for us is also incredible. We bought a whole system to make cold brew. Now we have like a huge 5-barrel system in our roast space that we just crush our cold brew. But we did a canning run of it last year, and then we're about to do like a big one for the summer. So he makes all of our.
Are you going to drop like exclusives, like where I had to buy a ticket to get this stuff? Because
see, that was our Eric is like comes from the beer world, and he's like, I hate that. He's like, I just
too.
don't like it. He's
I don't
like,
want to stand in line.
The
I
high
be able
brewery
to buy it.
stuff. He's like, even when we have a brewery, I just want to make enough and have it and not have it be that because it's kind of hype. It's like, and then is the beer even good?
It's
people buy it and then resell it.
Right.
It's like, triple chocolate stout.
Thank you.
Right.
Blah, blah,
I just want to walk in and buy it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's our goal. That's like Eric's
huge.
goal, and that fit in line with what Tim and I wanted too. We're like, we just want good beer that you can get wherever, and it's like decently priced, and it's like cool looking, and so.
Perfect.
And again, the canning, that's all Jordan. Like the design of it is.
It sounds
Butcher,
like you
so.
surround yourself. You find someone who's passionate about something, and then you just let them go.
Yeah, and I've always heard that that's the move, though. It's like, you know what I mean? If I see anyone's like, yeah, it's the people you surround yourself with. It's like, it's like, if you got good ideas, that's sick. But it's like at the end of the day, unless you're around people that also know what they're doing and are in love what they're doing, then that's the move for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Now, is there any plans for King State to have another location or move anywhere besides Tampa?
I mean, the brewery is the focus right now, and that's still going to be in Tampa.
Yeah.
We
stay in Tampa strong.
As you guys know, we branched out of Tampa, and that was the first time for us where we were like, it was a good learning experience. But I know Tampa. I'm born and raised in Tampa, and I know it, and I know what to expect, and I know who's here, and and as soon as we got outside of Tampa, it felt so
foreign.
Very.
Yeah.
I mean, I was
like,
I don't know the city at all. I don't know the vibe. I don't like, and it was just really tough. So for us, we have no plans of expanding. And again, like we talked about this place earlier, it's like special where it's like the building, and it's like it's hard to recreate.
Right.
So now it's focusing on product, getting more product
it's like the beer side for sure is like, because we can control it. Yeah. Once you get a 4-pack or whatever, you open it and it's the same. You look at the branding, it's like with coffee, it's tougher because they brew it right and blah blah blah, and like even like doing another location, it's like new staff, it's new training. And how do you recreate a vibe of like. Of what you feel here. So it's tough. I mean, we learned it, and it was a good learning experience, and I'm thankful we did it. But for us, like, we have no plans of if we did, it would be new concepts. Like we have a lot of concepts that might not even be King State. It will just be like, it's the guys from King State. Does that make sense? So besides the brewery is the move right now, and then outside of that, it'll just be other stuff.
Okay.
We also have
the guys from King State.
You also got Anberlin going again. So
we do, yeah.
I mean, you're just busy all over the place at this point.
I am. It's the balance is real for sure.
Right.
But yeah, so that was the other thing is we did a reunion tour in 2019, and the goal there was to we had like kind of a 2-year, 3-year plan. So a couple dudes like quit their jobs, and we were like, we're gonna do a tour in 2019, a summer tour in 2020. Maybe one more thing and then kind of be done.
Right.
Obviously the pandemic hit. Yeah. So we were like, we got to get creative. Like, these guys that were like, I quit my jobs.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? So
we
started doing the live streams, and that's been huge for us. We did a few. Been really fun. Really when we first started to, like, I was so focused. The pandemic with everything here was so gnarly that it was so I had to find the way to like focus on Anberlin as well, and it sparked like a lot of cool ideas, and it was really good for me like artistically to like kind of like flex these muscles that I haven't in a while.
Right.
And that kind of just led to more conversation. We didn't plan on doing any new music. That was not a part of it, but we kind of hit the spot where we're like, well, if we want to do anything after the pandemic, we kind of have to have music.
True.
Like we kind of, and then we were like, but if it sucks, we're not going to do it. So we just started writing slowly and trying stuff, and it kind of hit a spot where we're like, these are cool. Like, should we mess with this?
Cool.
And so for the last couple months, we've just been taking our time, and there's not really. It's cool because we don't have a label, we don't have any time limit, any agenda.
Okay.
It kind of feels like how I started here.
That's cool
because we're just like, let's just try it. And now we all get along even better because we had a break from each other. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming out that's like, I never would have been able to be in this headspace because of how everything was before. There was a lot of like pent up stuff. Like we all got along, but at the end I was like, oh, dude, I'm sick of you. Like I don't want to see you for like years. And I didn't. I didn't see some of them for years. So it's like reconnecting is like, you don't a lot of people at the time, we're in control of other people's lives in the sense of like, if we're like, yo, let's do this tour, and someone's like, I can't do this tour, it instantly affects like myself and my wife with money. So you're like angry about it, but now we're like, you don't affect anything in my life, so I can hang with you. We can do whatever because there's no, you hold no bearing. So it's been a really cool spot to like be in and just like. Have stuff, and
now the crowds
I'm doing
are like craving live performances.
Well, that exactly. So we're doing that, and it's like that's exciting, and then like having the idea of new music, and it's funny. I made this joke recently. I was like, I can't do anything without Tim, but Tim is built he just has a really good like ear for music, but also like he's built like a small studio, so I'm doing all my stuff, my Anberlin stuff with Tim. So I'm like, dude, I can't do anything without you.
Right.
Like, we're just, and it's been the most fun I've had.
Jeez.
Like this morning, I went and like tracked more drums with Tim, and I was like, I'm gonna go roast, and I'm gonna come here.
Jeez.
Yeah, so it's like we're
That's
just
so cool, dude.
and you know, it's funny. People are like, dude, you guys are crazy. Your family, you guys are gonna blow it. But we even signed stuff early on. We're like, yeah, we're close, but we don't know how it's going to go. So let's sign things. So
just in case.
We should have
did that.
Yeah, you should have done that.
I didn't.
Now
I signed
we're
in
here.
blood.
You'd still be married.
We did the blood pact. I forgot about that.
Yeah, Tim and I did that. We like spit in each other's mouths.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
That was Friday.
That was Friday.
Yeah. Well, honestly, dude, man, when
It's
we
a
decided,
reoccurring
yeah, right.
It's like
Friday night,
once a
every
week.
Friday,
9 p.m.
Yeah, it's a weekly contract.
After we watch Lost, and then we do that.
Yeah.
Dude, that's the thing,
Smoke
man. Is that,
monster?
right?
Man, this is weird.
Yeah, love you, bro. But no, I honestly, man, when we decided to do like kind of an interview format, like the show's been around for 3 years, but you know, Legends history, kind of Florida centric, and we decided to kind of like cover Floridians one on one. Honestly, dude, like you were a no brainer, man, because like it was something that was like it wasn't one dimensional. Like you were creative, you pursued it, you were successful, and now you're a huge part in a separate way of our local culture, and
that's awesome.
it just made sense, man. And I think it's one of those things where like you know, like we're honored to have you here, but in a way we're just doing service to our listeners because they wanted to hear it. So
that's awesome. Thank you guys very much. Yeah, and I remember, like I said, when I first saw, is that a plane?
Yeah.
That was loud.
Apache.
You know by the sound.
Yeah.
That's Boeing.
Right.
Yeah, that's with a Rolls Royce engine, I believe.
No, but yeah, I mean, when I saw you guys' stuff, I was like, oh, that's sick. Like
Cool.
like I said earlier, like I instantly connect with people that are like leaning into Florida, really just like embracing it, and like I instantly want to be like, you know, prop up those other people that are doing that, because you know, everyone's got different, you know, business models, but I was always sad when I'd go to a place, I'm like, you look like you're just trying to do something that was in Portland. Or you're trying to, and I'm like, what?
You're
like,
mimicking.
You know, and you know, then there's that fine line of like, well, now it's like if someone leans heavily into Florida, then you're like, oh, are you ripping King State? You know, I'm not saying I feel, but it's like that feeling of like, so now it's like, oh, we claimed it. It's like, but I still, outside, there's so much outside of like beer, coffee, and food. So like you guys being a podcast, it's like it's so sick to be like, Florida, and like keep pushing.
Well, nobody's gonna see your spot and go, oh, this is a franchise.
Well,
they're gonna know.
Oh, that's awesome. And that was, and people have asked, we've been hit up by like big people. Yeah, like you guys in franchise, you got a thing here, like you got to, you know. But I'm like, no, never. Like I honestly don't. I was like, that'd be the most devastating thing for me. I'd rather sell than be like franchise, because then it's like at some point it's like, again,
what's in my
trying
soul?
To recreate. It's like trying to recreate something that's like, we didn't build King State. Some people build a business for that, and I think that's fine if that's your business model
to make
but
cash,
not or even just to be able to like, you know, be scalable outside of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think King State, we could have another location one day, but I don't, it would have to be very much on our terms, where I don't think it's like, if someone came to us like, yo, we want to like open a King State in, you know, wherever, I don't, we would not be down.
Right. Well, dude, it's huge to have you, man. We're honored to have you on the show. So just really quickly, maybe like 30 seconds, how can people find you if they're, you know, from the UK, they're from Canada, they want to know more about it? Where would you direct them?
I mean, our website's a good place, king-state.com. And then social media is kind of more like, I guess, like it's just easily, you know, accessible. So, you know, just King State on Instagram. Amazing. I think it's spelled like K1NGST8. But if you search,
made it easy.
Well,
if you search it, it comes up.
Someone took King State,
to try to sell it to you?
I've sent them like 420 DMs of like, yo, man, can I take it?
Specific.
So it's a good number. But I was like, yo, like, what? Can we have your name? And he's made one post, and it's but anyway, so
weird.
Then we, so anyway, but if you search King State, that's the first one that pops up.
Your SEO's killing either way.
Thanks, Doug.
We appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much.
So much. And Nate Young, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Peace.